Welcome to Piggy Banks to Wall Street, the show that brings you the greatest minds in financial education. Piggy Banks to Wall Street is brought to you by Wenrich Wealth. To learn more about how Wenrich Wealth can help you plan for your future, or for a second opinion on your current plan, visit www.wenrichwealth.com or call 949-547-4313. Now your host, wealth manager, financial literacy advocate, and author of the book Teaching Kids to Buy Stocks, Stories and Lessons for Grown-Ups, JJ Wenrich.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of Piggy Banks to Wall Street. I'm JJ Wenrich, our show where we try to bring you the best minds in financial education. And we have another one of those great minds with us today. I'm here joined by Kimberly Sulfridge, the founder of the Kidz Money Project. Thanks so much for joining us today, Kimberly.
Oh, well, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, I'm excited to talk to you. I came across your project via social media. I think that's how I find about everybody these days when it comes to financial education. But was excited to get to know you a little bit over the last several weeks. And sounds like you've got some really exciting things that you're putting together. So let's start out by just having you tell us a little about who you are and what the Kidz Money Project is all about.
Absolutely. So basically kind of how the Kidz Money Project came about was roughly, 20 something years ago when I graduated from college and, got out into the real world, so they say. I kind of realized I had a different mindset about money than most of my friends that had just graduated as well. And, I was a little taken back by it because I couldn't quite figure out why. And, it took me a little bit of time figuring it out. And I realized this wasn't something that I had learned in school. I hadn't learned it in high school, hadn't learned it in college, but I had actually learned it at home, throughout my childhood from my parents and mostly my mother. And so then kind of led me to the question of, why didn't other parents talk to their kids, the same way that I was obviously brought up? And that one took me a little bit longer to figure out, but then it kind of hit me that, money is one of those kind of taboo conversations, and, it ranks right up there with the birds and the bees. And, it wasn't taboo in my household. We talked about it probably daily, in all honesty. And then it was taken to much deeper levels. I mean, I think most parents probably talk to their kids about savings and, some bank accounts and some general, basic knowledge that, how to give and things like that. But I think a lot of times it stops there until they hit a point where something comes up that, maybe when they're 16 and they're about to buy a car, trying to figure out how to do that and, talking to them there. But, just there's so many things that aren't covered in their childhood. And I was fortunate that I did learn that. And so when I got out into the real world, I was so much more prepared for, what came about and got started. And, as investing, time is a lot of investing. And so it's one of those things that the earlier you start, the better off you're going to be. And so, yeah, I wanted to get that out there. I figure if parents knew this information, they would start talking to their kids more about money. And then, I thought, well, maybe I need to take it a step further because maybe they don't know how because nobody talked to them about it. So maybe they just don't have the idea of how to start these conversations or when to start these conversations. So that's what the Kidz Money Project's all about. And I've been an entrepreneur my whole life. So, just starting a company to get this out there just seemed natural.
No, absolutely. Well, and you're right. Time is the biggest asset that you have, especially when it comes to investing. It's the one you can't make up for, and
Yes.
Starting early makes all the difference in the world. It really does. It's amazing. I've run all sorts of scenarios for folks, and even on our website, we have a page dedicated just to the power of compound interest. And the message we try to impress in that is the power of saving early. That it's a natural tendency, especially as kids get into their, get into your 20s, say, oh, well, I'll just do that when I'm in my 30s. I'll do that when I grow up, not just, I'm a grown up, but I'm gonna wait till I grow up.
Right.
And, that lost decade can really be hard to overcome.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's a big decade. It really is.
Well, yeah, and it's one thing to not even to not even start saving, start investing, but a lot of times folks decide, well, I'm not only going to not do that, I'm going to dig a hole that I have to climb out of.
Yes.
Oh, that's great. So tell us a little bit about what the Kidz Money Project is and what you're doing to help solve this problem.
So that was the thing. And that's what kept me from doing something about it for so long was, being busy in business, first of all, and having the time. But secondly, was how do I actually get this out there? And, my first thought 20 years ago was, oh, I'll write a book. And of course, writing a book 20 years ago is a little different than it is today. And so I just didn't know how to do it. Internet existed, but blogs and things like that didn't really exist in the common world for all of us. And so I just didn't have a way I knew to get it out there. And so, life kind of trickles down the way a little bit. And finally, I started thinking, well, I could write a blog and I could start doing some stuff like this. And then, of course, writing a book seemed like maybe a natural thought. But I wanted to do something more. I wanted to get it out there to almost kind of the mass, because I believe so strongly in this concept of making sure your child leaves your house with that knowledge. And what they do with it, you don't have any control over that, but you can send them off into the world, ready to go with that knowledge. And they're going to be so much more successful for having it. And so I am starting up, or it is up and going, but basically it's a membership, a program where I have different experts in all areas of financials. So anything from real estate, mortgages, stocks, even special needs, insurance, basically you name it, we're going to cover it in this group. Credit, debt, even teaching your kids how to or learn how to manage their money. I guarantee you at some point they're gonna find themselves in debt, whether it's through college loans, which we all know is a huge deal today. But even maybe it's overspending on a credit card. That's one I think you have to learn the hard way sometimes. But if they have the right tools and resources, they can get themselves out of that before they hit. We have Americans in this country that have $20,000 and $30,000 of credit card debt. And then we have students that have 30 to hundreds of thousands of dollars in student loan debt, which I can't imagine trying to step out into the world with a house payment essentially hanging over you before you even get started. So yeah, we're doing it a group. We'll have things like classes and workshops and things like that as well. But the group membership is an area I'm really like, because I can get a lot of information out to a lot of people, so they can start these ideas and get them moving forward, whether they're starting with a child that's 2 or 3, or maybe they're just hearing about this and they have a 15-year-old. It's never too late to start. You just got to start that conversation. So the earlier you do it, the better, obviously, but don't figure, oh, I'm too late, so it doesn't matter. No, you always got to start.
Yeah, just start, putting that one foot in front of the other. And I think that it's really important to help parents have those tools, because on one hand, there's a lot of parents that just don't know the stuff for themselves, or they've had bad habits for themselves, and they need that guidance for how to talk to your kids when you may not feel qualified to do so.
Right.
And then there's those that know the stuff, but kind of like your example of the birds and the bees, I'm pretty sure I understand how all of that works, but that doesn't mean I know how to tell my kids about it.
Absolutely.
So,
It's always fun to sit down and have those types of conversations.
oh yeah, I'm very thankful for my wife that really shouldered most of that load, because she seemed to do a pretty good job of that, and I don't know that I'd have done as good a job. I was better off filling in the gaps after she had the main conversation. It's
Right.
probably an indictment on me as a father, but I try to keep it real.
Right.
But you talk about books and tools. I mean, even she, I mean, she used books to have those conversations with the kids when it comes to the birds and the bees.
Right.
And the tools help. It helps just having that as a resource.
Well, and I think that's, again, I think that's where the problem, or where this problem kind of breaks down, is parents were not taught this as kids. So their parents didn't have these conversations with them. So, and it's not that they're bad parents. It's just that they didn't know to take it this further, or take this to a much further level, because it didn't happen for them. And so, and then not having that knowledge, or not feeling like they have the knowledge to talk to them, it, how do you have something you don't understand maybe yourself? And
Right.
so, there's ways of, honestly, there's ways of doing it, but if you don't know how or what you're looking for, you can't even go Google for it or something like that. And
Yeah.
so I'm trying to help that by just cutting out that middleman and saying, here, let me help you here, try to figure this out. And here are the experts that, because I'm not an expert in all of these different topics. I don't think anybody can be, because I mean, finances are huge. I mean, we probably don't like to think about the world revolves around money, but money is a necessity we have to have. We need it to pay for shelter, buy for transportation, buy food, clothes. I mean, it is a necessity in our life, and understanding how to manage it is essential. And the world doesn't have to revolve around money, but we do have to have it, and having that understanding can make a much better world and life for you.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it can give you the freedom to live the life you wanted to, whether that to be to help others or to do whatever it is. I mean, the old saying, money can't buy happiness, but not having it can certainly buy sadness.
Yes, absolutely.
So no, it's so important. And I think that folks like you, and even myself to some extent, that had parents that talked to us about money, or learned it in school, although that's obviously a small minority of folks that learn about it in school.
Right.
You get this tendency to take it for granted. And then, as a financial professional, then I really take it for granted that, well, didn't everybody learn this stuff, or doesn't everybody just understand this
Right.
stuff?
That was an issue I had, because like I said early on, I couldn't figure out why my friends didn't seem to know this stuff. I mean, it was second nature to me, because it was such a conversation throughout my entire childhood, that I didn't know any different. And as when you're younger, you just assume everybody kind of has that same education, until you figure out, oh, the world doesn't quite work that way. And but it really threw me. I could not figure out why these people didn't know some of this information. And once I did figure it out, I'm like, okay, it's not fair. I mean, that
Right.
people need to hear this.
Yeah. No, you're right. You feel like, oh my gosh, I feel so bad that you didn't learn that. I want to
Yeah.
help that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I know with my parents, my mom was good about teaching me bank accounts and just the very basics. She went with me to get a checking account when I was pretty young. I think I was probably 6th grade.
Mhm.
But I know that she didn't really understand investing. I just happened to luck out and hit the lottery, and I had a 7th grade teacher that brought we called them stockbrokers back then. I don't think anybody goes by a stockbroker anymore.
Yeah.
That's almost like some bad word or something, but brought a stockbroker out to talk to us, enrolled us in an investing contest, a fake money contest. And, that lit a fire under me, but I just was lucky to have had that. And it's nothing that was in the curriculum. And that's the case in most states in the country, is it's not part of the curriculum. It's up to, you got a handful of teachers that take it upon themselves, and thank God that they do, because they make a big difference. But it doesn't trickle down to maybe the areas that need it the most.
Right.
It's people with money talk about money more than people that don't have money. And
right. Well, and I think that's why it becomes taboo, is maybe if you're experiencing some money issues and things like this, that you don't want to bring up that conversation, because one, you may feel like, well, obviously I don't know what I'm doing, or I wouldn't be having money problems. And it's the problem is then your child, not only are you not talking to them about money, but they are learning, because they are watching what you do. And so maybe they're learning everything that you might be doing wrong, unfortunately. And so even just having these conversations, I mean, we kind of talk about, being a good example and stuff like this. And I think a lot of the reason some of these people might be having money issues is, again, they just don't know how to do some of this stuff. And again, that's where teaching your child young can maybe help them not have some of these issues that unfortunately you experienced because nobody did talk to you when you were young.
Yeah.
And
no, absolutely. And a lot of parents, they don't want to transfer the stress to their kid. You try to shelter them from that. If that's a big, piece of angst in your household, you want to try to protect them from that.
Well, and like what we're going through right now with COVID, we have a lot of families that either one or maybe even both have lost their job or been furloughed or whatever, where money is a huge issue inside the house right now. And, I understand not wanting to stress your kids and things like that, but if some of these conversations aren't happening at the time, I mean, they can feel it. They can see
Right.
what's going on with you. And so, I don't want you to unload on your kids about, okay, mom and dad aren't working, da 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 da. But they do need to understand a little bit about what's going on. This is a time that you can use as kind of a teaching time of, this is why we're pulling back. Maybe this is why we can't do this right now. Or, we have the holidays coming up, Christmas is around the corner. There's a lot of people that are not going to have the income that they normally have around this time of year to, have Christmas the way they would normally have it. It's time to think outside the box, bring your kids into that conversation and, bring up something different to do instead of just spending money on gifts and presents, and use it as a teaching time. And, like everything else, we will get through this. The economy is up and down all the time. I mean, this is nothing new. The pandemic part is new for us, but
Right.
the up and down of the economy is, that has happened from day one, and it will continue to happen. And so use it as a teaching time.
I think that's great. And it's honestly the way, in my opinion, I feel like that's the way I wish the holidays could get more towards is, let's not make it about, what we spend. Let's make it about being together. Let's get back to values. And obviously depends on the age of the kids, but give them some credit for being able to understand these things. And, you can really change their outlook on life as they turn into adults and as they have families, to make it about what it's supposed to be about, which is about, caring for each other and finding ways to really enjoy each other's company and have fun without spending money. I mean,
right.
You see it, you put a couple of kids in a room together with nothing at all, eventually they come up with games, they come up with ways to have fun. I mean, tag is free. That's one of the first games my kids ever played was tag, you know. So they adapt, and it's good, such a good way to teach.
Well, kids are resilient. I mean, I think sometimes we don't realize just how resilient they can be. And, you can get yourself, I understand as a parent, you want to give your kids everything. You don't want them to struggle or have it hard. But at the same time, your job as a parent is to teach your child. And the world is kind of a hard place sometimes.
Yeah.
And so if you can teach them these hard times are going to come and they will exist and how to deal with that so they don't overstress or, build anxiety for it or whatever it is that can happen, and let them know that these times will happen. You just work through them. Here's how you do it. Here are some tools and resources to kind of do that. And you get through it. And giving your kid everything, you may be setting them up to fail later because they're going to wonder why the world's not giving them everything.
No, you teach them to be stronger through that.
Mm-hmm.
My wife, she loves quotes, and I do too. But she has these different things hanging around the house as reminders to all of us. And one of them that she has, I think we have it hanging in 2 different places in the house. It says, "Life's not about, waiting for the storm to pass. It's about learning to dance in the rain."
Yes.
And it just, she's pretty good at keeping those thoughts in the forefront of our mind that, you bloom where you're planted and you learn lessons from that. So if you are a child who saw some struggle because mom and dad or both or one or the other lost their job, learn lessons about, all right, well, you got to prepare for that rain. It's going to rain. Better have that rainy day fund if at all possible.
Oh, absolutely.
And I love that with your project that you are bringing in experts from from a wide variety, because each topic is different. And even myself, I'm professionally, I'm a financial planner, but I have to lean on someone for mortgages, and I learn something new every time I go through that process, and someone else for this thing, for taxes. And it's really good. You always get a better perspective when you hear somebody that, that's all they do is that one topic.
Exactly. Yeah. Because not one person, you can have a general knowledge of most things, which I think people should have. I mean, that way they can ask the questions that need to be asked and things like this. And if you don't know, I mean, with the internet today, I mean, used to when I was younger and the internet didn't exist, it was harder. I mean, you had to go to the library, check out a book, and, you had to be careful. How old was that book? Was this something recent or was this written 50 years ago? And so, today with the internet, you can get that base knowledge pretty easy and free. Yep. If you just go look it up. And that way, you're not going to become an expert on the topic, but you can ask educated questions to the experts and be able to understand and have a better conversation with them.
Yep. Oh, it's amazing. I know people our age tend to just say this stuff all the time about, oh, isn't it great having, YouTube and the internet and be able to Google this stuff? But it really is just incredible. Even one of the simplest things that I didn't really think about it until I started teaching investing to teenagers is when I first got interested in the stock market. It was when I was in 7th grade, when I had that teacher that brought it to us. To look up to find out the price of a stock, you had to go to the newspaper to find out what it was yesterday.
Yes.
And they were listed in alphabetical order by their ticker symbol. You didn't just happen to know the ticker symbol for whatever company you were looking up. I mean, I don't know how I looked them up. I mean, because now you just Google it. But if you didn't know that AT&T was T as a ticker symbol, I mean, what hope did you have?
Absolutely. Oh, I remember looking at the Wall Street Journal, and I mean, it was huge. It was thick because of how many companies there were, and it would take you forever to find anything. And like you said, it was already yesterday's information.
Right.
So,
Oh. So how long have you been doing Kidz Money Project?
so it's been kind of crazy. About 2017, I tried to really get it out there. And unfortunately I had another business at the time. And as it goes with being a business owner, sometimes it's hard to find the time. And so we started it, we had some group meetings, we did some workshops and things like that, but I just never could dedicate enough time to really get it off the ground the way I wanted to. And COVID, COVID kind of presented that time to me. So since earlier this year, I've been really working to put this all together and actually launch on Halloween of all things. I picked that date for a very specific reason. One, kind of a kids holiday, kind of fun, all about kids and money. So I thought that was appropriate. But it also has a special meaning to me because when I was 22, shortly after college, only about 4 or 5 months out of college. Now I will say I did actually start my first business when I was 19 while I was still in college. So, it wasn't like a 4-month span I did this. It was a few years in there. But I had saved enough to buy my own condo and put a 20% down payment on it. And I closed on Halloween. And I never could have done that, obviously, without this financial education that I got growing up. And so I thought that was some great symmetry to being able to start this on Halloween and moving forward officially anyway, more than just, a workshop here or a group meeting there, that I wanted this full blown out there where anybody could get it and moving that way. So
Very exciting. Well, congratulations on that. I'm excited to watch how it evolves, because
yes.
it's going to be a lot of fun to see all the different people that you bring to the table, all of the things that you do yourself, and what a wonderful thing for your community and the audience that you're building. So
Yes.
so very nice.
Yes.
Oh. What knowing that you're kind of still ramping some things up, so far in this process, what has been the thing that has surprised you the most, or maybe something that you've learned that you didn't expect to learn?
Well, because we have done stuff since 2017, so I actually do have, I've talked to a fair number of people out there, and I'll be honest, the number one thing that I've heard over and over and over was adults, the parents, uh, not knowing some of this information. It wasn't that they didn't know how to talk to their kids. They just simply didn't know that some of this stuff existed. They didn't know, again, didn't know how to ask to find it because they didn't know what it was, didn't know how to research it. And, some what seemed to me basic concepts because of how I grew up, I was shocked that so many people had never heard of these things. And so, while my focus is trying to actually educate, get parents to educate their kids, I realize that a lot of this is new for the parents. And again, that to me, I hate that it's new to them, because I feel like they should know this. They should have been taught this, whether it was in school or from their parents. And again, I'm not knocking the parents, because I know they didn't know this. They would have taught it had they known it. And so it's about putting it out there so that, one, the parents know it. Maybe they'll adopt new mindsets with money and how it works, but passing it along so maybe we can change some of what's going on. We have generations that are just broke. And the thing particularly in this country is, I think there's more people that are broke than there are poor. And it's just that they don't know how to manage the money. It's a different mindset that I think a lot of people have, that there is a difference in how they're using their money. And that's what these that I'm really wanting to get out there that a lot of these people don't know because they were never taught that. And how can you know if you weren't taught?
Yeah, you don't know what you don't know. Like you say, you don't even know what questions to ask.
Right.
That's a really interesting and unique thing that you said there. And I like that a lot. There's a lot more people that are broke than are poor. And I think that that's an important distinction.
Yes.
And it goes back to something that anybody who's listened to me for any length of time has heard me say. It goes down to the psychology of spending and saving and how hard that can be, because we're not necessarily hardwired to be savers.
Right.
You have to have some level, and people, some are better than others, but it takes a mental discipline.
Mm-hmm.
Knowing you're supposed to. Well, I've known I was supposed to since forever, but I wasn't any good at it until I, literally just had to, was forced into having to do it because of hardship.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that I'm not alone in that. And
absolutely not.
And also, I think that for myself, ego of not wanting to be seen as someone who didn't have the money for something, maybe showing like I had more than I did. And I don't know if that's just an American thing or if that's just a human thing.
I don't know. And it's always been, we had, the Joneses for the longest time. Now, the latest is Keeping Up with the Kardashians. And, you look at what's being displayed on television and magazines and stuff like that. And, we have this thing of wanting to, show, I think, we're strong and we're good. I'm successful, and, who cares?
Right.
I mean, when you get right down, well, I think it was Dr. Phil that, we'd probably care a lot less if we realized all these people weren't really thinking about us.
Right.
And it's one of those things. I guarantee you people are probably not thinking about you near as much as you think they might be.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Don't flatter yourself. They're not even looking.
Right. Yeah. So, who cares if you have the $200,000 house, the $100,000 house, or the $1 million house? If it's keeping a roof over your head and keeping you dry and you're able to put food on the table, that's what's important.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's back to values, back to what really matters. And the value of who you are as a person is not your wealth and not that sort of thing. No, and when I teach the teens, and I know that when I'm teaching the teens that there's a fair amount of just moms and dads sitting there too, and sometimes the teens aren't even on the Zoom calls that I do because it's mom and dad signed up for it, which is
right.
A-okay with me. I always try to bring up the book The Millionaire Next Door, where they started out, doing, and I haven't read this book since I was 19, so I might butcher it a little bit, but they gather these millionaires in a room, and they're thinking, all right, we need to have caviar and champagne and all this fancy stuff, and everybody shows up in overalls and a Honda. It's not what they thought.
Exactly.
Oh, awesome. Well, it's been super fun chatting with you about this. I'm looking forward to seeing it keep moving forward. Congratulations on everything you've done.
Thank you.
And really appreciate what you're doing for your community and wish you, nothing but success, and just want to really thank you for helping pass these messages down, because if not for advocates like you, a lot of times these messages don't get out there.
Exactly. And so I'm excited. I cannot tell you, I'm almost on cloud 9. I'm so excited that this is really coming true. It's reality finally.
Yes. That's what's been so fun about doing these podcasts, is talking to people like you, and the energy that you give me, that I know you're giving other people. It's really a neat community of folks, and a lot of us met through social media.
Right.
But it's just seeing the passion that everybody has for getting this message out there. It's so inspiring.
Oh yeah.
And I just really appreciate that that you're able to share it with us today.
Oh, well, I appreciate you letting me.
Absolutely. Well, and thanks everybody else out there for listening today. This has been another episode of Piggy Banks to Wall Street. We appreciate you listening. And until next time, have a great week. Have a great month. Thanks so much.
This podcast is sponsored by Wenrich Wealth. To learn more about how we can help you plan for your future or for a second opinion on your current plan, visit our website at www.wenrichwealth.com or call 949-547-4313. Securities and advisory services offered through LPL Financial, a registered investment advisor, member FINRA and SIPC. Wenrich Wealth, Teaching Kids to Buy Stocks, Golden Seal Productions, and OC Talk Radio are not affiliated with LPL Financial. The opinions in this matter are for general information only and not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations or a substitute for specific tax or legal advice for any individual. We suggest that you discuss your specific situation with a qualified tax or legal advisor. No strategy assures success or protects against loss. JJ's book, Teaching Kids to Buy Stocks, Stories and Lessons for Grown-Ups, is available at Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com, and other fine book retailers. Learn more at TeachingKidsToBuyStocks.com. Piggy Banks to Wall Street is proud to be a part of the Golden Seal Productions family of shows.